All right, so just on another break here. This is a little bit of an exhausting pace, as I probably mentioned earlier. So I was getting into the church, problems of the church, the kind of things that you encounter there, the true purpose of the church. I haven't really gotten into, just a thought of something I wanted to get into was how the church dealt with the symbolic externalization process, this tearing apart of the this which enabled the organs to become externalized out into the environment, into symbolic form, as well as this participant type of interaction with that, with the state, so to speak. So I guess I just want to go through some thoughts that have been going through my head since last break. So what the church does, or what the church can do, is really a function that needs to be at the core of society. So looking way back, we're looking at the skill of shamanism, and this could be broadly said or described as remaking that connection, as the ability to connect to our inner worlds, to heal that divide, the great schism between the mind and the body. So not only to do that within oneself, but to do that in a social context, to regenerate the spirit, to bring the spirit back into play in our lives. And one of the tools that the shaman uses for this is simply drama, and that probably shouldn't be taken the way that you think it when you think of drama, but as a negative connotation for just kind of stirring up shit or whatever. And so that kind of drama, the interpersonal drama, there's also like tragedy, comedy, playwriting type drama, and this is a little bit closer, or maybe we could even consider a combination of the two. But creating a play, creating a drama in this way is kind of like a broadcast, bit of a broadcast expression, meant to be interpreted, to be seen, to be watched, not necessarily as part of an interaction, a dynamic interaction. Not in all cases. It's limited to that, but so what we're talking about here is that the shaman is able to spot these breaching of constraints when people are not being fluid and dynamic in their relationships, when they're becoming cold and rigid, and when problems creep up from this, as things are always rolling along, always changing. Everything is always changing, and so if we become stuck in certain patterns, it's almost certain that we are going to be suffering for that, especially in a sense of where there's relationships we're dealing with, where we have a community coming together. So the shaman in this case utilizes drama by not allowing discomfort to cause a fear response or an aversion response. So the shaman, who is actively engaged in their work, will confront head-on all of these kinds of distresses and bad emotions and things being bottled up, especially in a social context, or even in a one-on-one. But these are different kind of domains, I guess, for shaman ability. or action activities. And so the purpose is to either speaking directly into somebody else's life, to allow that to come out, to almost force it to come out, to make it obvious that it should come out, and to facilitate the confrontation of this conflict between the mind and body. When we have our bodies being alienated under the authority of, or feeling authority of some system, of some community, of some tribe, of some group, some hive mind, some group mind consciousness. And so very often we find that the individual gets lost in this kind of environment, and they stop standing up for themselves, and they feel deeply conflicted inside things that they want to say or speak up, but they don't have any way, that they don't know that they can or should do that. And even if they could, they wouldn't know how to express their feelings. So the shaman can act in a way as a crutch here, and facilitate that discussion and try to help interpret. So, but one of the first things is to get things out in the air, out in the open, get things spoken, help things to be, wherever there's a kind of rift or whatever seems like a point of contention, or where people are uncomfortable, or whatever people are avoiding. This is where the shaman goes in and just strikes, makes a strike in however way necessary to facilitate the drama, especially being careful not to push it too hard that things get triggered out of control. This is the purpose is basically the triggering of the speaking up, the making known, making spoken out loud, whatever problems there are. And the shaman helps to facilitate a group going through this process of an argument, of speaking your mind, of getting it said, and then the emotions come out and the tears can come out, and whatever it is, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. And sometimes it's only the shaman who knows that things are going to work out in the end, and others are sitting there or standing there losing their shit and not sure if everyone's going to be enemies and hate each other forever. But this is the kind of like that type of relationship. Even just to point out the fact that if relationships are so fragile that when people start speaking their mind that they're gonna the whole thing is just gonna blow apart, then what kind of relationship was it really? If you can just if somebody speaks their mind and speaks honestly and opens their heart and shares their feelings of how they feel of what's happening to them, and if that causes you to and the group to explode in some kind of confrontation which ends or seems to be ending relationships, then you had a very shaky foundation to begin with. And it's really the shaman's job at this point there to make sure that the relationships do not end, to make sure that it's understood that it's a healthy thing to get things out, and that we all have a right and a duty to speak up our minds of what we're feeling. So that's a quick intro to drama, the drama protocol, and that's what shamans do. So just juxtaposing the priest and the shaman, the priest really, the way that I use the word or that title, I guess, is or identity, whatever. The priest is interfacing with hierarchical religious structure and order. So the priest has a more, and also a kind of clerical job, in that they're interfacing with this worldly order. And in fact, a good priest is a shaman, but not all priests are shamans. And if a priest is not a shaman, they have lost something incredible, something extremely important. And it may be it might as well be said at that point that this priest in question is acting at a participant degree of coherence, and actually is causing damage to the kingdom of God without realizing it, without knowing it. They are simply perpetuating the state. In other words, this schism, this great schism, this externalization of our organs, which began with the religion's response. So spiritual systems' response to this externalization of meaning, in many cases, has been to be completely overwhelmed and the religious system itself exploited and turned into a giant participation engine. So losing that, and even intentionally removing that possibility of embodiment within the religious system itself. So this is very common. It often religious systems function this way, even if at their core they're not, like, even if they are advanced enough at their core as a system. When you take it as a system, like by going back to source material like scriptures and whatnot, even if we can see that those scriptures are complex and isomorphic enough, so enough nuance in the structure there to easily account for the embodiment process and the process of spiritual maturation. Even so, we find in our actual proximity guilds and in the actual leadership and ranks, we may find this watered down, lukewarm version, which operates on appearances, because again, this is what the law does. This is what participation can only do, is try to behave in a way that seems to be obeying and following the letter of the law. So by all appearances, it looks good, and again, this is where our awareness shows us hypocrisy, and this is the spirit at whatever. However close we are to the Spirit, it is the Spirit that cries out to us when we see hypocrisy of a law being followed, but the spirit of the law being broken. And so that's what often is given as one of the reasonings for why people refuse to have anything to do with the church, because you have these laws, this law-based approach, which is basically spectacular, simply putting up the image, the appearance of the thing, and going after the satisfaction of the law. And this is a big discussion point within at least Christianity that I know of. It's this great dichotomy between law and grace. And basically we have right there this exact dichotomy between participation and membership in the church. As well, we have this. The New Testament is intended to kind of fix what was broken with law approach, including sacrifice of innocent animal to pay for sin, continually done over and over again. Just as an example, I'm not going to get into the whole Old Testament, Talmud, Judaism type stuff. Suffice to say, there was and is ongoing mimetic warfare between religions, as often as basically is a given is granted, especially when perpetuated by participants who do not have the ability to navigate the meta-narrative, which sees that actually pretty much any of these systems has has power to facilitate the movement of the spirit and the journey towards increase of coherence. That's one important thing to remember when interacting with those who identify of other religions. So yeah, I don't want to pit one against another. I will say that each has its own high potential. Each is unique, and the problems with any particular system that we would point at is basically how they are interpreted and used by people. And so that's 15 minutes. My break is pretty much over. So I guess I'm just going to keep thinking along here as I work. I may have another hour after work before a small group tonight, and so hopefully I'll be able to get on here and maybe wrap up the religion business or the church business. I want to try and give a picture of the church as I have experienced it, and try to outline these kind of pitfalls of religion and of participation and all that kind of stuff, so that people may have a better chance of going into these with better expectations and a better kind of ability to roll with like participation and hypocrisy and stagnation of the spirit, and really spiritual death within the church. It's what we'd expect. We see it again. The church is not so different from the world, basically. It's, I think, just a common stereotype, I guess, of the church being hypocritical, and it's just a fact. The world is like this. The world is hypocritical and deceptive. But at least we know that we do have some institutions which at least claim to be taking care of this embodiment problem, the spiritual maturity of our society, the people, individuals in society, which is critical. And the point of all that is that it's absolutely necessary for the proper functioning of society at higher degrees or higher levels of coherence, where we are able to actually peer and interact with each other more directly and take on responsibilities. And I guess maybe most importantly, to have this direct experience of our own body and the knowledge of our body and the constraints of the body, and this direction that it provides when the mind body schism is healed. And that's absolutely necessary. Up until that point, we are metaphorically zombies, mere robots. We are spiritually dead, etc. And none of this can have meaning, except as just a metaphor, and like sometimes a scary metaphor. It doesn't have meaning to people who are in these states. So it doesn't help to tell somebody that they're a zombie or that they're spiritually dead. It literally has no meaning and never can have any meaning unless somehow they are become committed to the journey of increase in coherence, and they decide to surround themselves with people of high coherence, quality friendships, and as well as a sort of dedication to their own life, their own body, their health, their fitness, all kinds of like the fractal unfolding in all different directions. So I'm going to call it for now, get back to work, and I'll be back.